day. If you're spending less than $20 a month for prescription drugs, great. If not, then our monthly fee RX service might be a good option for you. Check for yourself at monthlyfeerx.com. And the Brian's Beat quote of the day. This one, courtesy of Neil Young with Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young.
Twin soldiers and Nixon coming. We're finally on our own. This summer I hear the drumming. For dead in Ohio.
You know, for the longest time when I would hear that, I thought 10, T-E-N, 10 soldiers and Nixon coming. Turns out it's tin, T-I-N. I don't know, maybe you thought the same thing. Certainly there were more than 10 soldiers, National Guardsmen on that particular date. All right, 7:22 on a Saturday morning, and there is a whole bunch of stuff to get into. Jim is getting ready in Studio 6 and 7/8. We also have the Bitcoin Biz Barometer coming up next half hour. And, of course, your calls at 508-996-0500. That's how you get on Brian's Beat. I'm back to Brian's Beat. Lots of sunshine right now. Be careful. Adjust the visor, put on the Ray-Bans, whatever. So we were told, I believe back in March, maybe it was February, that the Healy administration was going to pretty much put a hiring freeze on hires for the executive branch. Well, come to find out that hiring freeze really isn't working. And why were they going to do that? Because of a lack of funding. Anyway, the administration, the executive office, so folks that are hired under Governor Healy's administration, whether it's the treasurer, the housing department, you know, those departments, not folks that are part of the Bacon Hill lawmakers, but the upper crust, the governor's office and the lieutenant governor's office. 199 workers were added to the state's payroll. And that comes out, you know, if you're looking at this on a yearly basis, to more than 14 million tax dollars, your money. The top 5 new hires includes a nursing officer, as the title says, for the Department of Public Health. That person is going to be making almost $135,000 a year. Now, I don't want to disrespect any nurse or any nurse supervisor, but $135,000, isn't that a little outrageous? How many nurses over at St. Luke's? How many nurses at Toby, St. Anne's? Nurses over at SouthCoast? How many of them are making $135,000 a year? But if you work for the state, if you work on the taxpayer's dime, $135,000, well, what's the big deal? The top 5 new hires, $134,515 a year, according to state records. And I'm getting this from Chris Van Buskirk at the Boston Herald. Unbelievable. What's a few bucks? Now, according to the administration, all of these so-called hires happened before the deadline. They just didn't start until after the deadline. Notice, too, nursing officer. It's not rank and file real workers, people that are getting their hands dirty. Sounds like a paper pusher position, nursing officer. Look, I don't want to diss the position, but I just did. Works at the Executive Office of Health and Human Services. Somebody else with the Department of Transportation, also getting a poop load of money. And let's see, there's also another woman, Allison Brizowitz. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. According to the Herald, she was appointed last month by Energy and Environmental Affairs Secretary Tepper to serve as the director of the Office of Coastal Zone Management. Coastal Zone Management. What a great position. I can be your coastal zone manager. Oh, by the way, she starts on May 6th. So that's going to be Monday. And guess how much money she's going to make yearly? $155,000. Not bad. And by the way, she apparently accepted the job offer on March 26th. So I guess she got in under the gun. Your state tax dollars hard at work.
In a so-called free state, bureaucratic mandates often portray the innocent as guilty. This show is devoted to spotlighting noble victim testimony to expose legal, strong-arm tactics. This is Big Government Stories.
Yes, it is. Here's another big government story. We've got a state auditor who seems to want to crack down on the state legislature, to which I applaud. And when I say crack down, she wants to do an audit. That's her job. She's the auditor. She is the state auditor and should be able to, at least the way I look at it, be able to audit the legislature. But the legislature, oh no, can't do that. They are not going to. Why do you think they're not going to let her do that? All right. Well, apparently she has released an official report documenting how companies like Uber and Lyft have cheated the state's employee protection programs out of hundreds of millions of dollars. How? By misclassifying workers as independent contractors. They didn't misclassify them. They are independent contractors. Now, I know that the International Brotherhood of Teamsters would love to get these drivers into their union, and they are doing their best to do so. But this is not a misclassification. They are independent contractors. There is reportedly going to be a ballot question in November, basically codifying that. And without, shoving it down your throat, I know I'm going to vote to make sure that those drivers stay independent. Why? Every driver that I've talked to has told me they want to remain independent. I'm not saying that there aren't some drivers out there that want to be classified as employees, but they knew when they took the position that they weren't employees. What is that telling you? Do you think somebody said, "Hey, you want? Well, let's put you in there, and then you can start fighting, and then we'll send you over to Bacon Hill, and you can give testimony as to how you're being cheated. According to conservative estimates, now I'm reading from the International Brotherhood of Teamsters. They say, according to conservative estimates, Uber and Lyft have avoided paying more than $266 million into the state's workers' compensation, unemployment insurance, paid family leave program over the past 10 years. Breaking it down, about $47 million last year. So I know we've brought this up before. Can't hurt to bring it up again. Do you think that Uber and Lyft should turn around and say, okay, we're going to make our drivers employees instead of independent contractors and then pay out all their money? I can tell you right now that if the voters voted in making these rideshare drivers employees, Uber and Lyft have already stated they'll pack their bags and leave. Now, you might think that's an idle threat, but they've done it in other states, or at least one other state, I believe Wisconsin or Minnesota. So they've done it. They make a lot of money here in the Commonwealth. I don't know that they would really want to leave, but this would make their business model upside down. I know they tried to do the same thing. They being the legislature in California tried to do something similar. And I believe the voters sided with the drivers, and eventually a deal was struck, and Uber and Lyft are still in California. But I'll tell you, if you make them change their model, again, I scratch my head over this because it makes me wonder. If you are driving for Uber, if you are driving for Lyft, you know the rules, you know the regulations, you know you have to use your own car, you know your car can't be older than, I think, 2014, maybe it's 15 or 16 now. You know all of this up front. If you don't like it, leave. Go to a cab company that will give you these kind of perks, if that's what you want to call them. So you get your pay deducted for workman's comp, for unemployment insurance, paid family leave, that kind of stuff. If that's what you want, it's available to you. But don't make these other companies change what they're doing. However, I know that Governor Healy, when she was Attorney General, she had people working to get that changed. And I remember having a conversation with one of the investigators. And I'm saying, wait a minute, these people don't want that. Well, and I was told, well, we've had a couple of people come in. A couple of people. How many drivers are there? Great question. You know, we can ask Ken Pittman. He used to drive for Lyft, and I think even for a little bit with Uber, how he would feel about this. Matt, who used to produce over here, Matt Costa, I asked him that question. No way did he want to see that changed. It's just two people. I've talked to many others. I've had a chance to ride in a couple of ride shares, and believe it or not, I would ask them that very question. None of them want to see this kind of change. 508-996-0500. Should they be employeeized, the drivers, or should they remain independent contractors? And now, no, I'm not going to pull a rabbit out of my hat, but I am going to go over to Studio 6 and 7/8, where Jim Phillips is, to give us his Town Square Sunday update.
Good morning, Brian. Good morning, everyone. I'm Jim Phillips Here's what's happening this week on Town Square Sunday. May 9th marks the start of Art Week SouthCoast, with lots of art-related activities happening in New Bedford and Fall River and 6 surrounding towns. Director of Creative Services Margot Saulnier will give us a rundown. Walk MS New Bedford is scheduled for Saturday, May 11th at the Fort Rodman Fort Tabor Complex in New Bedford. We'll talk with an organizer and a Rochester woman, Tracy Eldridge, whose husband is stricken with multiple sclerosis. And Pauline Santos of the Dartmouth Cultural Center joins us with a preview of exhibits and programs for May and June. Join me for Town Square Sunday, Sunday morning at 6 and 11 on 1420 WBSM and 99.5 FM.
Jim, thank you. Let us take a look at the Bitcoin Biz Barometer, where we measure the universal crypto marketplace. Bitcoin, down a bit, $62,936. That's down about $125. Ethereum is down 16, coming in at $3,106. Binance Coin down 9 at $584. Solana is at $144. That's up $8. XRP at 52 cents. It's up a penny. Dogecoin is down a penny, coming in at 15 cents. And Toncoin at $5. That's down $1 from last week. Speaking of Bitcoin, and here we are into a new month. If you bought a whole Bitcoin on this date in 2023, so May 4th, you would have paid $34,089. $34,089. Excuse me, I got that wrong. You would be up that much money. You would have paid $28,847. And since it came in at $62,936 this morning, you're up almost $35,000. Are you complaining? Now, that's if you had the $28,847. But good thing about Bitcoin, you don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin. You can dollar cost average. You can buy half a Bitcoin. You can buy a quarter of a Bitcoin. You can buy a 16th of a Bitcoin. You just have to know where to buy it. If you bought that Bitcoin on May 4th, 2022, got to make sure I've got my bearings here because I wrote this down and I had to do some scribbling. 2022, you would have paid $37,750. But you'd still be up $25,000 plus. So that's not bad. I mean, Bitcoin is doing well, and over the next year, it is poised to do even better. That's your Bitcoin Biz Barometer for today, May 4th, 2024. As always, I get my numbers from coinmarketcap.com because they're updated each and every second of each and every day. Not bad. Not bad at all. So we've got a lot of things out there on the table and a lot more to come. But let's hear from you at 508-996-0500. Hello.
Hey, good morning, Brian.
Hey, good morning.
Citizens Bank was offering 5.25 for 8 months. That's pretty good on a CD. So I mean, if you had $1 million or 300,000, or even a smaller amount. I mean, I'm not including what you'd have to pay. Probably, I don't know how much it would be in the capital gains, but let's just say for the fun of it, if they had $1 million, so let's be over 50,000. Let's say if you did it let's say you could do for a year at 5% at $1 million, that'd be $50,000 right there. So you say you pay half of that, still you're coming out of $25,000. You know what I mean?
No, I don't. Try that. Part of it is I'm having a hard time hearing you. There's some background noise.
Oh, I'm sorry, Brian. I'll have to call you back then or something. I'm sorry.
All right. Well, thank you.
Okay.
I do appreciate it. 508-996-0500. Maybe you could make out exactly where he was going with that, but I just couldn't. I was trying my best, and I probably should have said something at that particular time, but yours truly, being the idiot that I am, I did not. So again, if you know what he was trying to say, please, by all means, let me know. That whole thing dealing with overtime pay, geez, makes me want to do this.
This is Big Government Stories.
Oh, thank you so much. Big Government Stories. Former state police sergeant sentenced to 3 years for stealing over $100,000 in an overtime scheme. Now, you might be saying, why would that be a big government story? Because if you are a state trooper, a sergeant within the state police, you are paid with tax dollars, state tax dollars. And I don't know William Robertson, but he was getting away with this, and it came crumbling down apparently around 2018. Not only that, I wonder if the feds are going to get in on this, because according to the article that I'm reading right here, Robertson, 62 of Westboro, helped facilitate an overtime fraud scheme in the state police traffic program section in Framingham from 2015 until it came crumbling down in 2018, stealing hundreds of thousands in federally funded overtime with co-conspirators and later shredding and burning records to cover it up. Robertson will serve 3 years in prison, 3 years of supervised release, and ordered to pay $142,000 and change in restitution, and also forfeit $32,000 and change. Huh. Yeah. I guess I'm glad that these folks got caught.
This is Big Government Stories.
It sure is. It's a huge government story. Uber, Lyft, a huge government story. The Healy administration saying, well, we're going to do a hiring freeze. Oh, but these people, we're not including them because they were actually hired before the freeze went into effect. $135,000 for one employee, $155,000 for another employee.
This is Big Government Stories.
Shh. Our tax dollars hard at work. Excuse me. Our tax dollars hardly at work. That is the Brian's Beat quote of the day. 10 soldiers, 10 TIN, and Nixon coming. Now, look, it's taking us back several years. 54 to be exact, to the very date. But I see what's going on college campuses right now. And I have a view. You have a view. The administration, when I say the administration, the president, he has a view. But as president of the United States, if he is going to make a comment in a particular case like what's going on right now, he needs to not show a bias, a clear bias. He needs to not be hypocritical. Case in point, UCLA, I believe it was Wednesday, it could have been Thursday. They had protests going on, and they've had protests going on, peaceful protests going on for several days and maybe even longer than that. Well, on Wednesday, Thursday, again, I'm a little crossed on the exact day. I believe it was Wednesday, but I don't want to be quoted, I guess. There were some protesters that were called counter protesters, pro-Israeli protesters, and they actually went after the anti-Gaza bloodshed slaughter folks. You know, it's amazing. You can change words around just a little bit. You say pro-Palestinian rally, and that seems to be the term coined in this particular case. But my guess is that there are people out there protesting that aren't necessarily for the Palestinians, but they don't like the slaughter that they're witnessing. They don't want their tax dollars involved in the slaughter that they're witnessing. But they're called pro-Palestinian protesters. The other side has pro-Israeli protesters coming out. Now, the pro-Israeli protesters, you can see this plain as day, thanks to camera work. They attacked for the sake of conversation, the pro-Palestinian protesters. They started beating on them. They went ape, as as we would say, on these people. So the president's press secretary was asked about this. She skirted the issue. She got back into generalities about what's going on. You know, we don't like violence when it's happening to anybody. People have a right to peacefully protest, stuff like that. However, President Biden, we heard it. We heard it. Calling the pro-Palestinian folks anti-Semitic, calling them terrorist. This is out of the White House. I mean, look. Call it what it is on both sides. If the pro-Palestinian folks are causing violence, I get it. Come out and say it. But don't try to whitewash the other side. It just makes the administration look more crooked than it really is. And that's just that one. There was an incident. Where Northeastern, how could I forget? Northeastern University, where there was a guy carrying a pro-Israel banner. I think even the Israeli flag. And he yells out, "Kill the Jews." And all of a sudden, the police come marching in and they arrest a whole bunch of people. But did they arrest the guy that said, "Kill the Jews"? Did they arrest the guy with the Israeli flag that said, "Kill the Jews"? Now, you might be saying, "Yeah, I'm making that up." I saw it right there. It's on video. You can go up to YouTube. You can see the same thing. They did not. You have to ask, why? How can that happen? How can the person that instigated get away with it? Now, I understand many people that listen to WBSM, They see the side that Israel is defending itself. Okay. That works for October 8th, October 9th. Even give it a full week.